Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show. Jake and I are back, and we're going to jump into the Milwaukee Bucks Game 1 and Game 2 in just a second. But we want to have a conversation first. So we're going to start partially with this picture from Damian Lillard's Instagram story. And it's Damian Lillard with a picture of him and Chris Middleton from last night's game, saying it's not for the weak, one game at a time. Now, Jake and I are of that mindset as well, the one game at a time. It's 1-1, not 0-3, anything like that. Mm-hmm. But my thing is I was planning on having this conversation, and then Jake sent me that this morning, and I'm like, well, that is pretty much on par with what I wanted to say about how people are acting after last night's game. And I get this is not everybody. I know it's not everybody, because we as Wisco Fanatics have fans who are able to handle things more level-headed. This is more for the people that radically freak out, for the people who are acting like the sky is falling because the series is tied at 1 without our best player.
Ooh.
You have to win 4 times, and the series is tied at 1, and people are freaking out. So I wanted to have a conversation similarly to what Damian Lillard said on his Instagram story. So my first thing is, if you can't stand the heat, then don't come in the kitchen. That's first. Second, nobody said it was going to be easy. Nobody said it would be easy. Don't flip negative when things get hard. We had this conversation literally last week and the week before, when I had made a post on our page about the Bucks, going through kind of a little bit of a slump and some losing, and saying that it didn't mean that they couldn't succeed in the playoffs. And just because they lost the game doesn't mean they still can't. And after every loss, this one dude just kept coming back and saying, well, how about now? And then after another loss, somebody would come back and be like, well, how about now? We're not going to switch up. We're not switching up. We're not flipping negative now just because the series is tied at 1 and the Bucks lost last night. We are not flipping. No. Wisco Fanatics is not flipping negative. We are not flipping. No. It's just not happening.
No.
The day that happens, we'll quit doing the show. And we're not going to quit doing the show because we want to do this show for the rest of our lives. This is what we want to do with our lives. We are not quitting. We are not flipping. I don't give a fuck if the Bucks lose 4 straight. We're still not flipping.
Nope.
Because it's who we are. It's not something we're doing just to try to be like, ooh, we're different because we're positive, then that's it. No, this is why we do this, is because this is who we are. Jake and I were having a discussion about a different content creator that we like, that Jake was listening to today, and talking about how who he is on screen is who he is off screen. That is how we are. Mm-hmm. We are not going to flip negative because of 1 here or there loss, or 4 in a row. I don't care. We are not switching up the way that we are, because it is who we are. Tim, what's up? Tim knows because he's been with us for a long time. So I just wanted to throw out a couple quotes. So I literally looked up, and I have 2 quotes by a Scottish author called Samuel Smiles, which I thought was kind of interesting and appropriate that his last name was Smiles. But 2 quotes that I wanted to share from him. Firstly, on the subject of nobody said it would be easy, because that was the first thing that I thought of when I was thinking about the Bucks losing last night. Mm-hmm. The fact that they're in the playoffs. Again, nobody said it would be easy. Samuel Smiles says, the battle of life, in most cases, is fought uphill, and to win it without struggle would perhaps be to win it without honor. If there were no difficulty, there would be no success. If there would be nothing to struggle for, there would be nothing to be achieved. That is the purpose of going through tough games, tough times, tough losses, tough things in life. Any of those things are worth it, are made worth it by getting to a point where you win a championship. How many losses do you remember from the year the Bucks won the championship?
Honestly, I remember the game 2 loss to the Nets, thinking that we were kind of in trouble, and then after that, it was like I don't remember another loss. Oh, I remember the game 1 loss to the Suns, but I really had to think about that. I remember the game 1 loss to the Suns because Giannis looked
blown out by the Nets, but like I don't even really remember what happened during it.
I remember Kyrie and KD were going crazy in that game.
But I can tell you play after play after play after play after play from the games they won.
Yeah, same.
So let's just say the Bucks go on. Say they advance past this round. Say they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Are we going to remember Game 2?
No.
Okay. So the other quote that I have from him is back to how Jake and I are with Wisco Fanatics. This is us. This is not going to be Jake and I are going to flip negative because they lost. Jake and I are going to remain consistently positive and optimistic and realistic without being homers at the same time. Samuel Smiles says, good actions give strength to ourselves and inspire good actions in others. And that is what Jake and I are trying to do. So Tim, Brett, Reggie, guys in the comments, they know this because they've been watching us for a while. And if you follow our page but don't watch our show as often, or if you just kind of see it once in a while or see one of our reels pop up, this is who we are. When you see us make a post on a social media and be like, hey, I know the Bucks are in a tough spot right now, or I know the Brewers are on a losing streak, or I know the Packers lost this game that it feels like they could have won. We are not going to just switch up and be like, nope, that was tough. Now it's time to be negative. That's not ever going to happen with us. So when I talk about a quote about inspiring good actions in others, that is what Jake and I are hoping to do. And that is why we started a scholarship with Mental Health America. It's why I'm currently planning for the second year in a row to have some sort of mental health related post for every single day of the month of May for Mental Health Month. Because we take this shit seriously. Like I said, we're not just being positive to be different so we can say, oh, we're not like everybody else out there. This is who we are. So it's not changing. Brett said people expect the Bucks to sweep every team, and it irritates me to see every outlet the moment we lose. Oh, the Bucks are done. Other than the Heat, like what other team did we sweep? It's not a walk every time. Even the Bulls, we lost game 2 at home. That's very true. The Bulls lost game 2 to the Bulls, honestly. And people were out of pocket being like, "Oh, Bulls in 5." Like, shut up.
Right.
Bottom line, just shut up. So that's that. Okay. I do want to make one quick announcement before we get into talking about game 1. For the show, there are 6 days left. 6 more days. You can subscribe to the Patreon to vote for what games we cover for our watch parties in May. That'll include our pregame and postgame shows. So 6 more days to sign up for the Patreon if you have not done so. We've had a few people do it so far. Hoping to see more, but we got to keep putting the word out for that. And we'll keep putting out clips when we do those as well. So if you're interested in seeing more of Jake and I during some games, sign up with us on Patreon, and Jake and I have pregame, postgame shows, and watch parties for 2 games a month. Right now, the front runner is a Bucks playoff game and a Brewers Royals game are the 2 currently being voted on. So
interesting.
That's that. And yeah, come check us out for that. Other than that, let's jump into game 1 from Sunday. Jake, what stood out to you from game 1, the W?
I'm gonna get to Brett's comment in a sec here. So, actually, let's hold that comment until we get to after game 2 comments.
Yeah,
I got something to say about that. So, game 1 obviously was a lot of fun. All the naysayers, all the the big media outlets, the ESPNs, all them, right? They're all talking, oh, the Pacers are going to win in 5. Pacers are going to win in 6. Pacers in 7. Like, everybody's picking the Pacers. I only saw 1 or 2 people that picked the Bucks. And the Bucks come out and absolutely just smacked the Pacers in the mouth. And that was so much fun to see. Damian Lillard, obviously, everybody knows by now, 35 points in the first half. He was on one. This was a version of Dame that the Bucks fans, didn't really get to see in the regular season, and there was a lot of drama. Like, I'm gonna put my notebook down. I'm just gonna be real with you. There was a lot of drama, surrounding the Bucks this season. With coaching changes, and the latest one is Giannis being hurt and how the Bucks gonna do, and Damian Lillard's going through this, and Damian Lillard's unhappy, and the trade for Damian Lillard was drama in a sense. Getting rid of Drew Holiday. So it's like, with everything that has surrounded us, I really think that game one of the playoffs, the way that it started, the way that it ended, whatever, people could talk about the struggles that we had in the third quarter, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit of foreshadow. It doesn't matter because we won, and it was a beautiful thing. Pat Bev had a great game, filled up the stat sheet. Pat Bev, 5 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Chris Middleton had a great game, 23 and 10. Bobby Portis, a double-double, 15 and 11. I mean, for everybody that wanted to talk trash about, Brook Lopez just fills in when he needs to.
Yep.
He gets very little shot attempts. They're very sparing. He's asked to set screens, box out, and
Space
literally allow 0 points in the paint, which is impossible. Brook has a tough job.
Yep.
And to put that into perspective, like, people really got to realize what he's being asked to. He's being asked to sacrifice his body in more ways than one at his extended age and size. You don't see a lot of guys that his size have the durability that he's had the last couple of years. I'm just going to say that right now.
Since he had that back surgery, the best back surgery ever.
Yeah, exactly. The best back surgery ever. I was going to say, outside of the back surgery, he has been healthy, completely healthy. So, the Bucks kind of smacked him around. Indy missed some shots, and, that was kind of the game.
Yeah, Tim said the Pacers were bad. Not what he said, but they were like 21.3% from the 3-point line, I believe. And in game 2, they were 40% from the 3-point line, which is a little more on par with what they shoot.
Yep.
And we'll discuss game 2 in a second. But talking about game 1, looking at defending Tyrese Halliburton, they did it really by committee. It was a lot of different guys regarding Halliburton, and he finished with only 9 points. So I think they did a good job on Halliburton in game 1. Game 2, he controlled the game a little better, especially with his passing. But game 1, I think the Bucks did a good job of defending Halliburton. Now, game 1 also, the Bucks held the Pacers to 12 fast break points. They averaged number 4 in the league, 16.6. So that was a good job there. Mm-hmm. Looking at both of the Pats, Pat Beverly had 2 steals. Pat Connaughton had 3 steals. So both of the Pats, Jake and I were watching the game together last night. The continued Pat Connaughton disrespect, I just don't get it.
No, it's got to stop.
How the dude just continues to do things and still is disrespected. It's sad, honestly. Like, get your ball knowledge up, straight up.
Straight up.
Game 1 also, the Bucks held the Pacers to 42 points in the first half. That is their lowest scoring half of the entire season. The Bucks are capable of that. And this is some foreshadowing for a segment we're going to do after game 2. But the Bucks actually, Bobby Portis scored 6 straight points at one point in the second quarter, part of an 8-0 run to put the Bucks up 19. The Pacers called a timeout. Pacers called a timeout to stop the Bucks' momentum. They had a chance to draw up a play. Out of the Pacers' timeout, the Bucks force a shot clock violation. That is what the Bucks are capable of. So when we get into game 2, we'll talk about some things like that. There was a brief time in the second quarter where Damian Lillard and the Indiana Pacers were tied at 29 points. That was just wild to me that was even there. Yes, Reggie, we will talk about that as well as Brett's thing as well. And Mike. So looking at Damian Lillard, his first quarter was his most points in any quarter this season. In the first half, he had 35 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He had scored on 25 of the 30 points in the first quarter. So Damian Lillard, like you said, just going crazy. He didn't score in the second half. That is the other thing that I wanted to talk about with game 1. Damian Lillard did not score in the second half. The Indiana Pacers used probably 75% of their defensive attention on Damian Lillard.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, he was distributor Dame and taking attention off of others Dame. And to Chris Middleton's credit, he heated up in the fourth quarter. He hit a 3 on the first possession. Bobby Portis got an and 1 on the second possession. Jay Crowder and Malik Beasley hit back-to-back corner threes that put the Bucks lead back up to 20. And from there, like, the Pacers cut it back down to 14, but that was about it. Patrick Beverley diving on the floor. That's great to see him. Another guy playing through injuries and seeing him being willing to dive on the floor. Honestly, game 1, 0 missed free throws, 13 for 13 from the free throw line. Only allowed 6 points off turnovers. The Bucks only turned the ball over 10 times, only 3 in the first half. And then they allowed 16 second chance points on 14 offensive rebounds. That's a little high. But you're talking 22 fundamental failure points. That's one of their lowest of the entire season. So a very strong fundamental game for the Bucks there. So we can go into game 2, and as we do, I'm going to hop into the comments because there's a bunch of them here that we wanted to address. First one being Brett saying that I can't stand the Pacers skipping along the court, them giving attitude, and Tyrese comment about the crowd. To me, that reads as a young team that has no playoff experience except for one player. Brett was also talking about Jake's comments on Brook Lopez saying he's too old or he's too slow. Like, when you see his size, he's talented and he anticipates the shots for blocking. We kept pace with them in game 1, which shuts the media up, which also states how they can't keep up with the Pacers. I'm going to get back to that in another segment. Brett also said, I can't stand Nembhard standing on Bev. I said to Jake last night, Giannis got thrown out of a game for less than that. Especially when him and Dame are going at it in game 1. Bro, Dame gave him buckets in both games. So
he's not guarding
he's
Dame.
Not in a position to be talking.
He's not guarding Dame one-on-one. I'm telling you that right now.
No. Bobby was hitting shots in game 1, which is crucial this series, and that's going to be the thing. If Giannis doesn't play in game 3, Bobby is going to be crucial. Reggie's comment is something that I wanted to get to. So Reggie said, my heart dropped out when Middleton went down for a bit, but came back pretty strong. I still am seeing people dogging Chris Middleton. Like, dude, he twisted his knee 2 possessions later, twisted his ankle, stayed in the game, went to the locker room, came back 2 minutes later, and then still played the game.
And hit a couple tough shots.
Dude was a fucking warrior last night.
Yeah.
Then to Mike's comment, Mike said, what's up, fellas? I expected Jay Crowder to be a factor, especially in the playoffs. Is it safe to say that trade deal for multiple second-round picks was a failure? I don't think so. I mean, Jay Crowder, he's an experienced veteran. Like I mentioned in game 1, he hit one of the threes that helped put the Bucks lead back up. He's going to hit some. He didn't hit them last night. But, I'm not – what second-round picks are going to be helping right now that Jay Crowder isn't?
I mean, they tried to undraft a guy last night, and he wasn't hitting either. AJ Green.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into some of the – we're not doing this. We're not doing, Chris Livingston got a stop on Pascal Siakam in garbage time. He should be playing. Like, we're not doing that. We're not – Jake and I, we went on several rants over the last month of the season that the Bucks are not playing the young guys when they're tuning up for the playoffs.
No.
We are actually in the playoffs now. The young guys are going to play even less. That's just not what you do. I don't give a shit how badly you think the starters are playing. They are not going to just bench starters who have been playing and preparing for all of these things just because they're not shooting well in a game. It's annoying as hell. The Bucks they're not playing young players right now. They're not doing it. Now is not the time. James said he didn't watch the game last night, but he watched the video a couple hours, absolutely tearing apart and disrespecting the Bucks defense last night, allowing open threes. He seemed to hate Jay Crowder, Dame, and Brook Lopez. Any thoughts since you watched? I don't get it. I honestly don't. Like, I wonder how people that do those things, and it makes me wonder, like, do Jake and I need to get to a point where we can add an extra video a week just to, like, go through people's horrible takes and just explain to them, like, you are wrong. Here's why. Stop talking from your feelings. Talk from actual facts.
I got so many things I want to touch on right now. Okay. 1, I'm just going to dissect James' comment. Jay Crowder. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jay Crowder is not an all-NBA defender. Jay Crowder is not one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Jay Crowder is not one of the best passers in the NBA. He's not one of the best anything except maybe teammate. I will give him a nod for that. Very good teammate. Obviously, every team he's been on, they've liked him. Yes, he's been on a lot of teams, but he's a journeyman and a glue guy to championship teams.
He's been on a lot of good teams. He's not floating around on the Hornets and and the Pistons and the Wizards. Like he's floating around on teams that are making deep playoff runs for a reason.
My thing about Jay Crowder is he's a bench player. Okay.
Yep.
He's a fringe starter on some rosters. Some.
Sure.
Very few, but some. Why are we expecting him to score 20? Why are we expecting him to hold people to 0 points all the time? Pascal Siakam gives people buckets.
Yep.
I don't think people understand that.
Yep.
People are acting like Pascal Siakam is a bum.
He's an all-star.
Pascal is a good player.
He's an all-star.
He is a legit 6'9", 250 with footwork and mid-range touch. That is hard to guard.
Mm-hmm.
He is a crafty scorer. Jay Crowder wasn't going to come in cold off the bench and just lock him down. I said the same thing about Drew Holiday. Last year when Jimmy Butler got on fire, Butler was already cooking. And we're just like, you know what, Drew? You're going to be the fireman today. Go put this fire out for us. He's already feeling it. You're just asking for Drew to get his feelings hurt. That's not fair. That
Jay
is
Crowder
expectations.
Yeah. Jay Crowder scored 2 points, gave up 6. That there's nothing there to be like, oh my God, torch and pitchfork. Like
exactly.
You're talking about 4 points.
So now let's get to Dame, okay? What? That's how I'm going to start this. The fuck are you watching? Did you not just see this man cooking 2 people at a time? Clearly, people are getting so hung up because there's a meme getting passed around now about his scoring in the first half and the second half. The man is legitimately getting double teamed the whole way up the floor.
Yep. He's
going to get exhausted. That's going to happen. Now, I'm going to say this as a caveat. Yes, Todd, they do. If Giannis is there, makes it a little bit harder to double team, don't you think? Don't you think if you make a pass to a 7-footer that could dunk on your entire organization, it makes it a little bit harder to say, why don't we just double Dame the whole way up the floor? Because that's not happening. Now, obviously, we don't have Giannis right now. So there's got to be an adjustment. I think you let Pat Bev bring the ball up a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with letting Pat Bev bring the ball up and then getting Dame into the action a couple seconds later into the offense. That could save Dame's legs. Okay?
Yep. I don't care if Pat Connaughton brings the ball up. I don't care if Chris Middleton brings the ball up. Shit, I don't care if Bobby Portis grabs a rebound and brings the ball across half court.
He did it yesterday. Now, I'm going to save a little bit what I'm going to talk about with Dame because I have something later. Okay. The last person on that list is Brook Lopez.
Can I throw something out on Dame quick defensively?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have video evidence of Damian Lillard playing good defense.
No, you don't. You're a liar.
I sure do.
Do you? Are you
sure? I
have
video evidence of Damian Lillard playing good defense. So there's Damian Lillard right there on the block, right? Pacers are getting their pick and roll going. That's Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton being up there. So Bucks are doubling the ball screen. I like this energy from Bobby. Now, look at where Dame is. Dame is making the rotation. You're leaving the farthest man away from the ball open. Now Damian Lillard steps up. And now as Bobby Portis is recovering, Dame is going to go back to his man. Oh, look at that. He gets a steal. So Damian Lillard makes the correct rotation and then steals the ball. Like, this is exactly perfectly how you want to play defense. James said that is literally one of the videos he was roasting Dame on. Bro, this is perfect defense from Damian Lillard. This is exactly what you're supposed to do. You rotate closer to the ball, you leave the guy the farthest away from the ball open, and then you recover when they try to make the pass across the court. That's literally exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay. He said maybe not this video, but it didn't end like that.
Listen,
but this is textbook how you defend this. You stay closer to the ball. You leave the man farthest away from the ball open. If 26 cuts to the basket right now, Nembhard is not throwing him that ball from half court.
Right.
With 2 guys on him.
Right.
The closest passes that he's making are to the extended wing over here and to Miles Turner at the free throw line. He's not making the pass to Halliburton because he has back turn. But now there's a defender to the closest players. And now Bobby's going to recover to his guy. And as he does, Dame is going to go recover to his guy and get a steal. But Damian Lillard isn't capable of playing defense, though, right?
Interesting. So, let me get to the last person in this comment, Brook Lopez. Again, Brook Lopez is being asked to do a lot of stuff. We got some undersized people switching on Siakam. That's why it was such a good trade for Indy to get Siakam. He gives them a lot of versatility. He's a pretty good playmaker from the power forward position. And when he gets 2 feet in the paint, he could be 14 feet away. When he gets 2 feet in the paint, probably scoring on a lot of people. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, especially if he's hitting his mid-range.
Could be fucking prime Michael Jordan. You let that man get in position and pull up, fade away. I don't give a shit who's guarding him. He's not stopping him. Okay, It is what it is.
Good offense beats good defense.
Now, obviously, Giannis with his size and strength is going to be able to push him and disrupt his timing. And that's going to be some things that change it. But it's pretty sad that I have to explain that to people because clearly they just want to break everything down and act like they know everything. But whatever. Brook Lopez is doing a tremendous job at rotating, showing his hands, and stretching the floor on offense especially. He's hitting some bombs right now. I am not here for any Brook Lopez slander right now.
Nope.
And Miles Turner is a tough cover.
Yep.
When he's making his three-pointers from every position, the wing, the top of the key, the corner. He's making his mid-range last night. I mean, who's stopping that? Now you got
Miles Turner is young Brook Lopez.
And not exactly, and quicker. And now you got everybody spacing the floor because Siakam's hitting threes. So it's like, what do you guys expect people to do? You know what I'm saying?
So the next comment was Brett said he's going to bounce back game 3, talking about Crowder, I think. And even Beasley's going to turn around. Doc said he expects Beasley back. You guys are realistic when I heard that in the podcast. I'm like, really? As far as Beasley's concerned, he's not playing a ton of minutes, so I don't have a ton of complaints to make. The fact that I saw somebody complaining that Beasley played only 10 minutes last night, it's like people spent a month and a half complaining that he played too much, and now they're complaining that he played too little. But in 10 minutes, he had 4 points, 2 rebounds. Like I'm not seeing what there really is to complain. I'm not worried about it. Todd said Wisconsin's fans always overreact. Yes, that is accurate. And yes, we know it's not all Wisconsin fans. But that is truly where Jake and I found and still strongly believe that there is a need for a show like ours.
I agree.
That's why we do it this way. Because we saw that there was a need for something other than constant complaining. Brett said the playoff atmosphere is different. It's a series and a marathon. You're going to win some and lose some. It's all about adjustments, and people may hate Doc by saying mediocre coach. It's going to show his experience. It's going to show by his experience and make adjustments. Crowder will turn it around and make shots. Beasley too. Both Lillard and Siakam are on fire right now. Siakam's weakness is the free throw line. Get him there. I agree with that. That's fair. People need to realize he's tired of double team sprinting to get past the half court line, and that's also true. Brad also said Jackson Jr. should be getting minutes.
See, here's my point on that is I said it yesterday during the game. If you needed a body, because they were trying everybody, right? They threw Crowder into the fire. They threw a lot of people in there. If you were just going to have a guy to try to be a body, to try to body him up and disrupt his timing a little bit, I'd have been okay with that, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
With the rhythm that he was in, he was going to be tough to guard for anybody because he was in a rhythm.
Yeah. I want to go to Brandon's comment on Twitter. Appreciate it, Brandon. Brandon, how you doing? He said Brook Lopez's rebounding needs to be questioned. Stop giving him a pass. I'll be honest, I haven't paid super close attention in the 2 playoff games to how he's doing in the paint, because Miles Turner is one guy that draws him away from the paint. But during the regular season, I will absolutely give him a pass on not having a lot of rebounds, because he is usually a box out guy, and he usually does a lot of like tips to his guards so that they can start the fast break.
I got 2 thoughts on it. One, how the hell are we supposed to grab a damn rebound when they're running us off the freaking floor? They're getting a 3-on-1 in the fast break. How many rebounds do you want them to grab in that situation? Okay. I mean, point blank period. And 2, people complaining about him leaving Miles Turner wide open. You want him to guard Miles Turner, or you want him to grab the fucking rebound? Which one do you want?
Yep,
pick one.
That's fair.
I'm just getting sick and tired of all these dumbass comments. Complain. Wah, here. You can pick anything you want to fucking complain about. The point is, the Bucks have some things to work on.
Yep.
They're tied 1-1 going into Indy, a 4:30 tip time on Friday.
Yep.
They're going to go in there like some goddamn professionals. They're going to whoop some ass. Yep. That's what it is.
So looking at just the hustle stats, it doesn't have anything on box outs, but looking at contested shots, the Bucks contested 25 shots total. How many do you think Brook Lopez contested?
17.
Not that high. He contested 9 of them. 9 of the 25.
Wow.
So essentially 40% of the contested shots by the Bucks were contested by Brook Lopez.
Again, fast breaks, 3-pointers. Brook Lopez strong suit. Everybody has a downfall, right?
Right.
Even Giannis, best player, one of the best players in the league. What's his downfall? Jump shooting, free throws. Not great at it, right? He has a downfall too. Brook Lopez downfall, clearly perimeter defense. He's 300 pounds.
And like I said, with this series specifically, Miles Turner is bringing him away from the basket. The guy who's doing the rebounding for the Bucks is the other big man. It's Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis is doing the rebounding. Brook Lopez is doing the shot contesting and the floor spacing. That's what he's doing.
That's his job. That's what they asked him to do, and that's what he does. Yeah.
Bobby Portis is the rebounder. And now James brought up also Pat Connaughton. He said there was also something about Pat Connaughton just out there doing cardio, but I'm not doing this to make a whole video about that guy. Good analysis. Bro, Jake and I talked about this a little bit in game 1. I don't get where the Pat Connaughton slander is coming from. I seriously don't get it.
Well, if he's not making 7 threes a game, he's trash.
Dude, I don't. Oh, my God. Okay, so Pat Connaughton's stat line last night, he was 2 for 3 from the field. One of them was an and one. He had 5 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, and no turnovers.
Nope, he's just doing cardio.
Just cardio. Just the second leading rebounder on the team, in only 19 minutes. 2 assists, 2 beautiful assists at that. Both of the passes that he made for assists were really, really nice passes.
Man.
And Brad said exactly what it normally is when Giannis is playing. Brad said Lopez usually lets Giannis grab the board, but when Giannis is out, his rebounding does lack. And I think that's where Bobby Portis' rebounds increase, though. Yeah. I still am thinking that Brook Lopez isn't like waiting for shots to go up. Brook Lopez is jumping at every shot. He's trying to contest every single shot. He's not trying to rebound every miss. He's trying to contest every shot.
Yeah, but
that's why there's such an insane gap between Brook Lopez and literally everybody else in the NBA for contested shots. And I want to pull it up because I didn't look what it was at the end of the season, but I want to see how far the gap was between Brook Lopez and who I'm assuming is going to be Ivica Zubac as the second leader in contested shots. So looking at it right now, I already know Brook Lopez is going to be number 1. Holy Christ, Chet Holmgren was number 2, but Brook Lopez contested 1,235 shots this season. Chet Holmgren, number 2 in the league, 950.
Brandon, I'm not mad. I've been dealing with this for 3 years that people don't understand sports. I mean, listen, I'm not calling myself an expert because there's lots that I got to learn. I've had this discussion with Tyler many times. I don't know everything. I barely know anything. I feel like I'm an idiot most of the time, right?
You said it, not me.
Hey, it's better that way. But when you're watching something and you say that you're a fan and you enjoy it, you should probably have a baseline understanding of what the hell you're looking at. Okay? I don't watch reality TV because I don't give a shit. I don't know anything about it. I don't watch makeup tutorials because I don't need makeup. I'm beautiful the way it is. Okay? It's the inside that matters. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not mad. I'm just really sick and tired of people always complaining about everything. And I agree that when you look at it from that perspective, Brandon, the 7-1 center needs more than one rebound. But again, I go back to the point. People are complaining that he's leaving Miles Turner wide open for three. Do you want to leave him wide open for three, or do you want him to grab rebounds? He's also got to protect the paint. He's the only paint protector. Now, the thing that people aren't taking into consideration is when Bobby's in there, let's be honest, Bobby's not a great, paint defender. He's not a great post defender.
No.
Okay? So
really
that puts a little bit more responsibility on top of what is already a heaping pile of responsibility. And man, nobody
save that one. That I want to get to. That is one thing I want to get to.
Nobody was guarding Pascal last night. That fucking guy was cooking everybody. Let's just call it what it is. Sometimes guys get in their zone. They're NBA players. They're good. They can score on anybody at any time they want. Pascal's a good player. He's an all-star for a reason, a champion. The guy knows what he's doing, okay? So, honestly, and I'm not saying this for you because I know you know your stuff. I like a lot of your content. I know you know your stuff. But the vast majority of people that are complaining and crying about stuff don't even know what they're looking at. So I just get frustrated because it's like, dude, you don't even know ball. So how are you going to talk about it?
That's the thing. That's where it comes from. And Brandon, and I know you've obviously dealt with this because you've had your own show as well. And it stems more from it's not even, like Jake said, it's not even necessarily about being mad. It's more about being frustrated with the fact that people speak from their feelings more than they speak from facts.
Yeah, man, that's...
And even some of the facts that people will speak from be like, oh, Pat Connaughton only had 5 points. He's just out there getting cardio. The other thing is there's an understanding here. And we can have another discussion about another player who could have not even going to get to that because that's just another can of worms that we're not trying to open right now. Right now, we're just dealing with comments. Is that there are more aspects to games than just scoring. And personally, this is where, and this is another can of worms that I'm not going to open, I'm just going to mention it, is the same thing with football, is fantasy football and betting. That's two things that I think are affecting people to be like, oh, Pat Connaughton only scored 5 points. He's just getting cardio. Dog, just because you bet on Pat Connaughton to have over 6.5 points doesn't mean that if he gets under that he's just doing cardio. There's other things to this. Or Christian Watson is a perfect example. In the Cowboys game, he had 1 catch for 9 yards. That's not the only thing he did. There's more to this than just the statistics that you put up and the points that you score. There are more to these games. And Jake and I would love to have more time to dedicate to breaking these things down more often. And Brandon is exactly right. The series is 1-1, and it's a different series with Giannis for sure.
100%. Everything changes. The playmaking, the defense, the rebounding for sure. And that's one of my things. Brandon, if this is your first time, second time, 100th time, I'm big on rebounding. And Tyler knows this. I've talked about this for years. I think if you dominate the boards, that you're the more physical team. And if you're the more physical team, you're going to win a lot of games. That's just point blank, period. And right now the Pacers are winning the boards. And they had 10 offensive rebounds last night. Or they averaged 10 for the series. So that's a problem. We got to clean up the glass. And we can't allow them to do fast break and get second chance points.
Right.
That's just, you're killing yourself.
Yeah. Josh earlier said, what do you mean Dame should have scored 90?
Yeah.
He also said you can't win in 6 if you don't drop 2, which, yes, that is true. James said that we know he's a Celtics fan. He's used to seeing overreactions and horrible takes like we lost 1 game, so we can't win banner 18 this year, even though they won 64 games. That sounds like something Boston fans would say, but that also sounds like something that Bucks fans would say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, looking at Game 2, what else did you want to say that stood out as far as Game 2 is concerned?
I'm going to give credit to the Pacers as hard as it is. I think they showed good mental toughness last night. Now, obviously, they were led by Siakam because Siakam was keeping them in the game in the first half. But I think they showed good mental fortitude by coming back and taking the lead and never giving it back, honestly. So they moved the ball well. I watched Bobby's presser last night, and he said a couple things that kind of stuck with me, and he was right about one thing for sure. They game planned very well for Game 2. I'll tell you that right now. They came in with a very good game plan to take away Dame. Dame still did his thing, obviously, but they were going to let the others shoot. And you know what? If I've said this once, I've said this a million times. It's a make or miss league. Pacers made theirs. We did not. The series is 1-1, baby.
When I get into one of our segments we're going to do after we talk about Game 2 is reasons not to panic, I'm going to get into that.
100%.
So Damian Lillard is insane. That's first. Damian Lillard, absolutely insane for him to go 35 and 34 in 2 games, especially with how much attention he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
Game 2, as far as some positive takeaways, we got Brook Lopez going. That's a positive. He had 22 points. He was 6 for 7 from the three-point line. If Brook Lopez does that when Giannis is on the floor, Pacers are screwed.
Oh, yeah.
You can't pack the paint with Brook Lopez making 6 out of 7 threes. Because then I don't care what Jay Crowder and Malik Beasley are doing because Brook Lopez is your spot-up shooter and Chris Middleton is your spot-up shooter and Damian Lillard is your spot-up shooter. Right now, honestly, Damian Lillard is playing the Giannis role of being the guy to drive to the paint and attract attention. That's Giannis' game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, when Dame is being the person who's driving and taking the attention of the defense, that takes one of your best shooters away from the three-point line. If you can get Damian Lillard more spot-up opportunities when Giannis is driving to the paint, he could drop 40 in the first game that Giannis plays.
Man.
If he's getting open looks, like right now he's just shooting coming off of screens and he's just dropping everything.
He's going
Imagine
crazy.
him shooting wide open, which he did a couple times last night, and everything was buckets. So that got Brook Lopez going. Chris Middleton playing through pain. I don't want to see any more Chris Middleton slander. Game 1, he had 23 and 10. Game 2, he played through 2 injuries that happened in the first quarter and still had 15, 5, and 6 assists.
But Tyler, the Bucks lost, so the sky's falling.
If the sky had fallen every single time people act like sky had fallen, like the world would just be upside down. That's where we'd be. That's where we'd be at. The world would just be straight up upside down. James said someone brought up Tatum averaging 20 in a playoff series. Opinions about Tatum withheld for this comment. Someone said other stars emerged have had 35 plus in the playoffs when it mattered to win. I mean, anything is possible when you lie, but that hasn't happened. And that's the thing is you have a certain amount of mouths to feed. And this is one of the other things that Jake and I can talk about. Brett said the media wants to perceive that Giannis isn't going to be ready this series and the Bucks are done. I just want to lose it to Jake and Tyler. Middleton wants this and hitting huge shots to keep us in that game. Middleton's getting buckets. That's what he's doing. As far as Tatum, to use James's example, the Celtics have a lot of mouths to feed, as do the Bucks. Giannis isn't even playing right now, but the other thing that Bucks fans like to complain about, especially 2 days ago, is Dante DiVincenzo. Like, why are we still doing this? Dude's been gone for like 4 years, bro.
Dude, do we need to drop the content?
Still complaining about Dante DiVincenzo.
Do we need to drop the content?
Jake and I had this discussion. If Giannis is healthy, right now, the New York Knicks, Dante is their second option. It's Brunson. He might be their third option. It might be Brunson again, and then Dante.
Right.
But even when Julius Randle's healthy, he's their third option because Josh Hart is a defender and OG Anunoby is a defender. Isaiah Hartenstein is getting his points off of offensive rebounds, off of pick and rolls, and off of the ball being moved around and the ball being dropped off to him. He's not like they're not going to go give him the ball and like, get us a bucket.
Right.
Same with Mitchell Robinson. So right now he's their number 2 option. You look at the Bucks, It's obviously Giannis, Dame, Chris. Then you're looking at Brook Lopez.
Bobby, maybe.
Bobby. I mean, at that point, you're looking at putting Dante DiVincenzo in the position of Malik Beasley. Would you like to know some facts about Malik Beasley and Dante DiVincenzo?
Yeah, I would.
Malik Beasley has a lower defensive rating and a higher three-point percentage.
Really?
Which suggests that for the same amount of shot attempts, Malik Beasley would score more points and allow fewer.
Wow, that's weird. That's really
weird. So if
weird.
Dante DiVincenzo were on this current Bucks team, he would be Malik Beasley.
So I also want to bring something up that I said to you the other day, and I thought it was smart because every once in a while I get one of those. He would not have turned into the shooter he was if he wasn't around Curry and Klay Thompson for an entire season. He was not shooting the ball like this in Milwaukee. And he was injured, and he was young, and he was an asset that the Kings wanted at the time.
Yep.
So it was like, do we keep him or do we keep Pat? This guy, Pat, is literally bleeding for this franchise, and people seem to keep forgetting about that.
And dude just came off a playoff run and a championship run where he made a shit ton of clutch threes, but
whatever. People forget about that too. So, they chose to go with the safer bet. The guy that, orchestrated this entire trade for Damian Lillard as well. So, I mean, I don't know if that matters to you at all either, but Damian Lillard is Pat Connaughton's the reason that Dame is a Milwaukee Buck, which I'm just going to tell you right now, if we didn't have Dame for game one, we weren't winning. I'm just going to be honest with you.
It's pretty easy to say that.
I'm not trying to talk shit about Drew Holiday, but we were not winning that first game without Dame going crazy in the first half.
That's the conversation we've had. And James is a Celtics fan, and he's watching, and the Celtics have the luxury of not having to have Drew Holiday score a lot of points for them, because that's where he struggled with the Bucks. Unfortunately, that's just a fact. It's not like we're trying to dog him. Just the fact is he did not shoot well enough when Giannis was out or when Middleton was out in the playoffs. He didn't shoot well enough. They had to upgrade the offense. They had to be done.
Yeah.
And that's the example that we're using right now. And James tied it in exactly the way that I was looking to do so. If you're using the Celtics as an example, is having Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Apologize if Tatum isn't going off for 40 plus. That's fine. I get it.
You're not even adding guys like Horford who can get hot from behind the 3-point line.
Sam Hauser, who was going crazy because the Heat kept leaving him open.
Right, and Pritchard, who's super annoying, but a very crafty player, very smart player. He can go off for 15 to 20 points. I mean, the Celtics roster is freaking loaded, dude. Tatum doesn't have to score 40. That's the point.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So, Brett, have a good night. And yes, we will continue to do positivity and facts. You can be optimistic and realistic. My last thing on game 2 before we switch it up here. The Bucks played some zone in the second and fourth quarter. I don't know how helpful it was, but my thing is the Bucks defense looked intense in the first half.
They were good in the first half, but the third quarter is just killing us.
And Brandon was commenting from Twitter before and talking about Brook Lopez on Siakam. That's really my only big thing that I would change. Obviously, the consistent effort that they had in the first half of last night's game, I think needs to be there the whole game. But just a little bit less Lopez on Siakam, and if Giannis is going to be potentially available for Game 3, that's where obviously I would go. Otherwise, I'm looking at probably more Jay Crowder, to be honest with you. That's what I'm looking to put on Siakam, somebody who can stay in front of him, but also contest his jumpers. And yes, that's the only aspect or the only avenue I see for maybe Andre Jackson Jr. getting some playing time is sticking him in there for a couple possessions and see how he does against Siakam. But here's the bottom line. You can try it. I'm on board with trying it.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the point blank bottom line. If there is any sort of questionable contact, Pascal Siakam is getting the call every single time.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because you're talking Pascal Siakam, NBA All-Star champion versus a rookie. any call that is remotely questionable contact, Pascal Siakam is getting the call.
Well, I mean, I know that too, but really I'm just looking for another guy that could just, be physical, and he's a little bit quicker, so maybe he could stop the dribble drive and go from there.
Brad said if Giannis is in, Lopez gets less minutes this series. I think him and Bobby both get fewer minutes, but I also think then you see Bobby and Brook their minutes go a little bit lower depending on how much time they spend with Miles Turner in. And yes, Brad, he's getting the calls already, and if he's got a rookie on him, he's going to get calls essentially every single time he drives to the basket.
Yeah, especially at home.
Especially in Indy, yeah. Brett said, we're 1-1. We got this. People are acting like we're down 0-2 or worse. We won one without Giannis. We can win another for him. I'll always believe in the Bucks. Like Jake said, going to kick their ass on Friday. Fear the deer. And yeah, so we can talk about this. So Jake and I, we have 2 segments here, extra from Game 1 and Game 2. 3 reasons not to panic and 3 ways to bounce back. So 3 reasons not to panic. You want me to give mine first, or you want to give yours first?
Go ahead, man. Floor's yours.
Okay. So my first reason to not panic is 1, because it's easy. It's easy to panic. It's easy to, oh my God, the Bucks lost. Oh, what are we going to do? Now we lost the home court advantage. It's easy to panic. This is me speaking obviously as myself, but also for Wisco Fanatics and for myself.
Mm-hmm.
To you, to anybody who's watching this, let other people do what's easy. It's easy to panic. If remaining calm was easy, everybody would be doing it. But they're not. Even if they might know that that's what they should be doing, they're still not, because it's hard. People don't want to do hard things. It's not easy for Jake and I to be optimistic and realistic all the time. But we do it because we believe that that's what's necessary. Like I said before, I believe that our show is filling a need for Wisconsin sports fans. Like when Todd said before that Wisconsin sports facts overreact to everything. Jake and I believe that there's a need for a show like ours. So my first reason not to panic, it's easy. Everybody is going to do it because it's easy. It's easy to complain. It's easy to freak out. It's easy to be like, this player sucks, that player sucks. He's just doing cardio. It's easy to say shit like that. It's hard to watch games, to rewatch games, to study games, to read about games, to listen to other people talk about games, to understand the game better, to understand that there's more to the game than scoring.
And use Google. That's hard.
Which I showed how to do 2 weeks ago. But it's also harder to watch all the games and take notes on them as opposed to just watching them.
True.
Second reason, the series is even after 2 games. These 2 have to play at least 3 more times. The series is a 7-game series. A team has to win 4 to eliminate the other. The series is 25% over for both teams. We have a 5-game series now, 3 games on the road, 2 games at home. That's what we're looking at.
True.
My third reason to not panic is the Pacers are going to come back to earth. That's just point blank. That's the Pacers. Tip your cap. They made all of their shots last night. Their second half, they shot 26 of 43 from the field. That's 60.5%. In the fourth quarter, they were 14 of 20. And they were making contested shots. Like, they were making, like, dribble behind the back, turnaround fadeaways and shit. Like,
they were going fucking nuts for a little
They were
while.
just making everything. So, in the fourth quarter, they shot 70% from the field and 66.7% from the three-point line. They were 4 for 6.
Yeah.
This is their literal season numbers, even if they shot wide open. So, these are their wide open percentages. 44.9 on field goals and 40.1% from the three-point line. That's if they're wide open every time. So they're 70 and 66.7%, not sustainable. So those are my reasons not to panic. Jake, why are you not panicking?
So I don't know if people like don't watch the games or if they do or whatever, you know. We didn't have Giannis, So,
That's true.
I'm chilling, honestly. Reports were coming out today and yesterday that he may not be ready for Game 3, but you know what? There's going to be a Game 4, and he could play that one. So
there's going to be a Game 5 too.
There's going to be a Game
That's still
5.
a week away.
That one too, So no Giannis so far. So honestly, I really, in my gut, I'm not just saying this. I really, in my gut, in my heart, I believe they're winning on Friday. I think they're going to go into Indy, and I think they're going to be, and it's got to come to a head at some point. With all the dancing, and this is why I wanted to wait for that comment. And I wanted to say this right after the Giannis. No Giannis. The dancing, the talking, the post-game stuff, talking about our fans, this, everything that's happened, stealing the Giannis's ball, everything that's happened this year with Indy. At some point, and this is a players' league, and I'll say that about every goddamn league. It's a players' league. You gotta be sick of the disrespect. Gotta be. And you gotta just stand on business. And the Bucks on Friday, this is where the championship DNA comes into a factor for me. And that's my second point. This Bucks team has championship DNA. The championship DNA is going to show its head on Friday. And the Pacers, man, they better chill out, man. I understand there's some young boys and they all confident stuff and they chirping, they making some shots, they standing over Pat Bev. I'm telling you, that you better be careful, man, because that bear's gonna bite back. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let me just answer Brad's question really quick.
Go ahead.
First things first, Brad. Before I tell you what the percentages against the Bucks are for the Pacers, I do want to give the disclaimer that these were all against Adrian Griffin coach teams, and the defense did change. And even to that point, the numbers aren't bad. They shot 48.2% on field goals, 30.5% on threes. So it's not crazy. Even before the coaching change, which helped the defense. Even if it wasn't a ton, the defense is still better.
It's true. My last one is, we really haven't had a signature Bobby Portis moment yet. We haven't had a Bobby.
Little ones.
We had like little snippets, right? But like, I'm talking like in the regular season, towards the end of the season, especially when Giannis was out, Bobby Portis was going crazy, man. He would be scoring 10 out of 14 points, grabbing rebounds. He'd be talking to the crowd, home and away. It doesn't matter. We haven't really had a Bobby Portis moment yet. And after that presser last night, man, just saying.
It's going to take one time for Bobby to do something in a game and for Bobby chance to be heard in Indy, for Pacers fans to be like, oh, shit.
I'm telling you, man. It's going to get ugly if we get a Bobby moment and we get Giannis back.
All right. And Brad, that's a good point. We haven't been full strength against them either. That's totally fair. That doesn't include the playoffs. So that is just the regular season. So
yep.
Put that out there also. Now, we also have 3 ways to bounce back, just to end this on a positive, to look, instead of just being like, this player sucks, that player sucks, this player's just doing cardio, this player sucks, this guy's trash, this guy's not doing enough. Jake and I, we've done this for a long time, where instead of looking at, saying what sucks, Jake and I are looking at for what can improve. So for ways to bounce back, my first one is to use Indy's strength against them. Jake talked about possessions when we were doing our series preview. I looked at pace. Again, people love to complain that the Bucks are old, but pace, the Pacers are second, and the Bucks are 8th in pace.
Yep.
So the Bucks can run. The Bucks can turn up the pace and not let Indy set up their defense, which is going to hurt them trying to defend Damian Lillard in transition.
True.
So the Bucks only had 5 fast break points in Game 2. They only had 7 in Game 1. So my first thing, as far as the not letting Indy set up their defense, which is clearly centered around defending Damian Lillard 94 feet, is to get the ball in transition and not let them get that set up. My second one to bounce back is to defend inside out. In Game 1, the Pacers only had 40 points in the paint. Game 2, they had 52. Now, the Pacers obviously scored a lot more points, but part of that is points in the paint. And now here's the thing, is you might give up some more three-point attempts. And if we're talking about betting on how the Pacers are going to shoot, Last night they shot really well. They shot 40%. Game 1, they shot horrible 20%. So you're betting on the Pacers being about 30%, which is what they were during the regular season in those 5 games. So they're perfectly on point with their average. So I'm willing to give up more threes here and there, open threes, in exchange for open layups. If you look at it that way, it could also potentially help reduce some second chance points by being in the paint, having more guys in the paint, and then it just comes to putting bodies on bodies.
Yeah.
There was, and I don't mean to like single him out and be like, he sucks for this, because I'm not saying that, but there was a 1 possession lapse where there was a shot that went up and Patrick Beverley was watching the ball and not boxing out. And I'm sure he's seen that film and been like, no, that's on me. I got to box that guy out instead of watching the ball and looking for the rebound, because he allowed an offensive rebound to happen. So defend inside out, box out, and that's what that's going to be. Brad, I'm guessing you're asking what's the defense against the break? Like, are you looking for the Bucks like allowed fast break points that they allow, or what the Pacers allow defensively? Need more details for your question. Brett said he thinks the veteran leadership is going to show how to handle a 7-game series. I strongly agree with that. We talked about that last week. Have to keep pace with them with game 1. Keep up with them because they turn the ball over with rushing plays. That's absolutely fair. I expect Doc is going to limit the paint without Hield and Brown. They have less three of a team. Can't bring Lopez out to some of those people. Lopez tips it out for others for rebounds. And that's the thing. Miles Turner presents some matchup difficulties. That's what makes Miles Turner good, is the fact that he can hit threes and he can work in the paint. That's what makes him valuable. That's why the Bucks hold on to Brook Lopez.
Honestly, if Giannis is back, I would have Giannis cover Turner, because Turner likes the space a little bit more, and I'd have Lopez on Siakam. If Siakam makes threes, it's whatever, dude. He's not known as a 3-point marksman.
Yeah.
He's gonna try to get his points in the paint. Like I said, he's trying to try to get two feet in the paint and fade. That's what he does.
Yeah. And then my last one is, I touched on it a little bit already, is play defense like they did in the first half last night.
Mm-hmm.
High energy, great intensity, great rotations, and then finishing with box outs. That's my last way to bounce back. Brad, while Brett is giving his ways to bounce, while Jake is giving his ways to bounce back, I will look and find transition stats.
All right, so my first one is the same as one of yours. We got to control the paint. The jump in points per paint, the fast break points, and, honestly, us not dominating in the paint when we still have good size, even when Bobby's in there, is something that's, kind of alarming to me. We got to make our bunnies, man. My next one is we need more from the bench. So for the series, the bench is shooting they're averaging 7 of 18. That's 38% from the field, and they're averaging 26% from the 3-point line. Obviously, we need that to go up. That's not going to do it. So then I looked at it by quarter. They have not scored a single point. The bench has not scored a single point in the first 2 games in the third quarter. 0 points. That absolutely cannot continue. That is a trend that has to stop right now. And I'm just going to give some context on this. I have not looked into it super deep. That could be something to do with some of the rotations, keeping Dame out there a little bit longer. Right. Keeping Bobby out there, is he starting for Giannis? I'm sure that if Giannis was in there and Bobby goes in, we're going to score some points in the third quarter.
Let me here. I have it right here. This is funny. So Bobby, Chris, Brook Lopez, Patrick Beverley, and Damian Lillard were your starters last night, right?
Yep.
Jay Crowder played 1 minute and 18 seconds in the third quarter. AJ Green played 4 minutes, 11 seconds. Pat Connaughton played 6 minutes, 55 seconds in the third quarter last night. The 3 of them combined took 1 shot.
See, that's where that goes. And that could be something to be said for ball movement. Maybe we have to move the ball, and Dame's getting doubled a lot in the first half, and he's getting doubled. They're being a little bit more aggressive with it in the second half, which I think leads to some of his struggles in the second half. But at that point, we had a 5-second violation after we had to call a timeout because the ball got stopped in the backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
We have to move the ball. People have to be available. that's the kind of stuff that can't happen, right? That's the stuff that's frustrating, and that's the stuff where I don't go at people because they get frustrated with that stuff, because that stuff is frustrating for me too. So,
Let
my
me
last
give you game
thing,
one quick too. Game one, Beasley played 7 minutes 39 seconds. Connaughton played 4:54. AJ Green played 2:12. Beasley was 0 for 1. Connaughton was 0 for 1, and AJ Green was 0 for 3.
yeah, that was when Green was missing all those 3-pointers.
Yeah, so they were 0 for 5 in game one and 0 for 1 in game 3 or in game 2. Sorry.
So my last one, and this is on every list for every sport, maybe not baseball. Get physical. It is the playoffs, people. Make them feel you. You know, Beasley talked about how it's going to be bad for them if they see us in the playoffs. It's time to put up or shut up, okay?
Yep.
Start knocking some people over. Start giving them a little bit extra of this. Nobody's going to get mad at you for that, okay? Now, I'm not going to complain about the refs, but the refs were a little bit inconsistent, in my opinion, last night.
I put it in my notes, but I'm not going to put it into the show.
But, you know, if you're bumping and you're, you know, after every screen, give them a little bump. You know, every time that you're going to the paint, give them a little bump, right? They were doing it to Pat. You did it to Pat Bev last night, right? You know, and then you stand over the top of them. Nah, we ain't getting punked like that. It's time for us to push back. Time to get physical. Stop acting like some punks.
So Brad wanted to know the fast break defensive statistics for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at opponent fast break points per game, Indiana is actually number 9 in the NBA at 13.6.
Really?
You want to guess where the Bucks are?
Are they above them?
They're tied. They literally have the same. It's literally 13.6 for both teams.
That's interesting.
So they're both tied for 9th in the NBA in allowing 13.6 fast break points per game.
Brad, I don't disagree with you, but physical can also mean Bobby Portis. Physical can also mean Pat Bev, which
Jay
is what he was
Crowder
buying
is
it
absolutely physical.
Physical, yes. Physical can mean Jay Crowder. It doesn't have to be a singular person. It could be just a mindset. And we have to come in with that mindset that we're not going to get pushed around today.
If we're talking Andre Jackson Jr., honestly, I would use the word energetic more than I would use the word physical.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I honestly, like, if we're talking Andre Jackson Jr., I wouldn't describe him as a physical defender. I would describe him as a high-energy defender.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Like, obviously, having high energy is a good thing. Intensity, those are the things that I've just brought up.
High energy can be physical, too. So
right. Just not, like I said, just not how I would describe him. But
yeah,
he's absolutely going to be an important piece in the future. Okay. Anything else you want to say on the Bucks before we switch to the Brewers?
I'm going to not think about the Bucks for 2 days.
Me too. Even when the show is done, I'm gonna watch baseball.
And I'm gonna think about the Brewers, and then tomorrow, people are gonna join us, and we're gonna think about football.
Yeah, yeah. I don't look at it as Andre Jackson Jr. being cheated. Like it's just one of those things where the experienced, the established veteran is gonna get the benefit of the doubt. It's just the way it is. So the Bucks play Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, 3 games in the next week that Jake and I will have next Wednesday. Other than that, we're going to jump into the Brewers with our power pairs and our underrated performers. Jake went first last week, so I'll give mine first this week. My Brewers position player is Bryce Durang. So he was 4 for 15 at the plate, a 267 batting average. Nothing crazy, especially for what he's been doing this season so far. But looking at Bryce Durang, what really established me putting him in my power pair is his approach. So I broke down, if you missed it yesterday, I broke some plays from the Brewers and Cardinals series over the weekend. And it, like I said in the play breakdowns, it's like a Bryce Durang haul of highlights. And him using the opposite field has really impressed me, and I love his approach that he's taken so far this season. He did also draw 2 walks, played fantastic defense, and he is still perfect. He is a perfect 12 for 12 on stolen base opportunities. So Bryce Durang is my power position player. My power pitcher is my guy, Brian Hudson. And I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in we get to the Sunday game from the Cardinals series. But his only appearance was Sunday. He faced 7 batters, retired all of them, 4 of them by strikeout. So Brian Hudson is my power pitcher. My underrated performer, I was torn between like 3 different players, all pitchers, but I went with Tobias Myers, actually. And it's unfortunate that he took a loss. The Brewers weren't able to scratch runs across for him in support. There's going to be ebbs and flows, like we said last week, but he gave up 1 pitch home run to Andrew McCutchen and then nothing else.
Yeah.
For a guy making his MLB debut, I will take 5 innings of 1-run ball from every single starter not named Freddie Peralta.
Man.
Any other starter in our rotation gives us 5 innings pitched and only allows 1 run, I will take it.
Yeah.
I'll take that from Colin Ray. I'll take it from DL Hall. I'll take it from Joe Ross. I'll take it from Jacob Junis. I'll take it from Aaron Ashby. I'll take it from anybody not named Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta, he needs to do more because he's the ace.
He gets held to a higher standard.
That's so anybody not named Freddie Peralta, I will take 5 innings pitched and only 1 run allowed. So Tobias Myers, I'm gonna give him the nod for my underrated performer this week.
I'm with it. So now it's my turn, and my power position player is none other than Blake Perkins, a guy who, he played some great defense too, made a play of the game. We'll get to that game, but he made a great play, stole the home run.
Oh, Michael likes my Hudson pick.
When we got him, it wasn't a splash, but Hudson has been, and they talked about it. He almost didn't make the roster out of spring training. Just saying.
You know who brought up Brian Hudson super early in the season? Like literally after the Mets series? This guy. If people are riding the Brian Hudson train, you tell him who was conducting it. You tell him who was riding it first. It was me.
I'm with it. So Blake Perkins was 6 of 21 this week, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 1 RBI, 2 walks, only 5 strikeouts, 286 average, a 375 on base percentage, a 429 slug, and an 804 OPS. So good week for Blake Perkins all the way around. And my power position pitcher is Colin Ray. Colin Ray. So a little perspective before I get to his numbers. And Tyler and I were talking as we were watching the Bucks game. We kind of just talk about whatever comes up, really, honestly. And you got to consider the last 2 times he's went out that he's had some tough matchups on the other team on the mound.
Yep.
I mean, Sonny Gray's no slouch. He's been pitching very good. And we all know about Corbin Burns. So, I mean, those are the last 2 guys that he's had to face. And that's wild. But he gave us 5 innings, only gave up 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 3 walks, and 3 Ks. So, again, I mean, those numbers don't look super sexy when you hear them and when you look at them. But when you think about them in context, I mean, man, he's eating innings. That's all I can ask for, right?
He's a model of consistency.
Yeah, he really is. And my underrated performer is Joel Payamps. He pitched in 3 games. He got a win and 2 saves in those games. Gave us 2 1/3 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, and 1 K. That's a 0.43 whip and a 0 earned run average. So love to see that from Joel.
I like it. All right, let's dive into this Cardinals series. We'll start with game 1. What takeaways did you have from game 1?
Man, game 1. So Freddie Peralta was on the mound. 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 Ks. Just being the ace, right? Peguero pitched very good in this one. Trevor McGill ended up giving up a run. Tough outing for him, won't lie. But it
was that bad. But yeah,
it wasn't that bad. But having a 1-0 lead, and it was kind of exaggerated a little bit with how it happened, in my opinion.
Yep.
Payamps gave us a third of an inning, and Hobie Milner got a save. I mean, that's pretty wild.
He was in my breakdowns for the save. He had 2 nasty strikeouts.
Yeah, 2 strikeouts for Hobie Milner. What's happening to this guy? He's becoming a strikeout master now. RBIs in this one, both from Contreras. He has after this game, he had a hit in 13 of his last 14 games. Perkins scored on both of the RBIs from Contreras. He scored in the third off a double from Contreras and then a single in the 10th. So just good stuff from Perkins being on base and good stuff from Contreras hitting him in. So one little tidbit about Freddie Peralta here. He's only allowing a 169 batting average through 4 starts. People are 14 of 83 versus him this year. That is second in the NL to Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease is first at a 130 batting average, so he's cooking. But obviously, Freddie's cooking too. A 169 batting average is nothing to scoff at. So just wanted to throw that little nugget out there.
Interesting. On Freddie Peralta, he had 6 scoreless innings. 2 of the 4 hits that he gave up came in the second inning. Nobody on St. Louis could barrel up his off-speed stuff. Everybody that was swinging at it was just rolling it over. As far as the Brewers, they did get a couple runners on base in the 4th inning until Gibson whined his way into getting a wider strike zone. He literally whined his way into getting calls. Sanchez grounded into a double play after a really bad strike call. And if you go look at the umpire's scorecard, this isn't just me sitting here going, oh, the umpires helped the Cardinals. The umpire's scorecard literally looks at all of the factors, and the pitches that were called, the most egregious misses, had a run calculation of plus 1.79 to the Cardinals, which is really high. Usually it's underneath 1 run, that it flows or fluctuates in one direction or the other. It was almost 2 in favor of the Cardinals.
That's actually insane.
That's super high. Wow. So you brought up Blake Perkins. He did a great job working a 3-1 count and then got a great pitch to hit an opposite field double. William Contreras then with 2 outs and 2 on. Sal Frelick drew a walk in between, pulled a double for the lead. That was with 2 outs. Just 2 out runners. The Brewers continuing to do well. And the other thing is you can look at this 2 different ways. You can look at it from the Brewers' perspective and then again from the Cardinals' perspective. So we get to the 10th inning, right? Blake Perkins is on second base. There's 2 outs, and William Contreras comes up to bat with first base open. And they pitch to William Contreras. It's a bold strategy, Cotton, and it didn't work out for him because William Contreras delivered, gave the Brewers a 2-1 lead. Then you go to the bottom where they intentionally walk Contreras with 2 outs because first base is open, and Holby Miller comes back with a strikeout. And it's like, shit, maybe the Cardinals should have thought about that. You mentioned Peguero. His sinker was absolutely disgusting in this game. And then the 9th inning. So with Trevor McGill, he came back in for the 9th inning after only pitching 11 pitches to get through the 8th. He got the first 2 outs on Contreras and Gorman. So he's at 22 pitches, needing 1 more out. He was rolling. Absolutely rolling. He had 5 outs in 22 pitches. That's fantastic. This is just to the Cardinals' credit, honestly, more than saying, that McGill should have been pulled. He gave up a walk and then a hit and run single that was well executed. That's just good execution by the Cardinals. I can't be mad at it. That's just good baseball.
Yeah.
Willy Adames was running towards second base as the ball was hit, and the liner ended up going right where he was standing before the runner took off for second base. That's just good execution. I seriously can't be mad at it. I'm really not. And then Payamps came in at a hit by pitch and a walk, and the game was tied after that. So I mean, the run gets put on McGill, but I'm not mad at the way that Trevor McGill pitched at all.
Yeah.
So as we go into game 2 here, Michael said the big elephant in the room is we need another starter. I'm willing to bring Bauer in on an incentive-laden veteran minimum. I understand the blackball situation with Bauer. I keep hearing he was a bad teammate, but after what he's gone through, I believe people should get a second chance. What's your 2 opinions? Do we need Bauer? Is the baggage too much? So there's 2 ways to look at it. First, you can look at character. Second, you can look at need versus, what the opportunity cost is, I guess. And that's how I'm going to look at it. So first, if there's rumors of him being a bad teammate, honestly, keep it away.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
Because this is the thing: is we are not in LA, we are not in New York, we are not in Chicago. Jake and I have talked about this a lot with fans, and the team aspect of it is the same. Is the thing that's going to make somebody choose Milwaukee for less money over a larger market for more money is people. It's absolutely 100% the people. You will not convince me that it's anything else more than people. People are going to be the biggest intangible when it comes to people wanting to be here. And if there is a thing where the Brewers are willing to sign a guy who's known as a bad teammate, that's going to hurt their image. And that's just something I can't risk as a team that has a sport where there's an unfair advantage being no salary cap.
So for me, I'm in the same mindset, but a little bit different. We have a lot of young guys, and we have the second best prospect in baseball on this team right now, and he's very young as well. I can't be having a guy who's a bad teammate come in and kind of spoil the clubhouse for all these young guys. I mean, Bryce Terang's having a good year so far. Don't want to be getting into his head. Jackson Chourio, he's going to have his ups and downs. He has had a 3-for-30 streak, got a big home run after that. We can't be having him, have to worry about this guy having an explosion in the locker room.
Or Sal Frelick or Joey Weimer or
the list.
If my guy Tyler Black gets up, or Bryce Terang or Joey Ortiz.
Right. So, to your point, our points kind of intertwine in a way. The people are what matter, and we have a lot of young guys who can be impressionable. I don't know if I said that right, but you get my point. We can't be having this dickhead come in and act like a dickhead, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
And on your thing with the young guys, that ties into my other thing as opportunity cost. 1, Aaron Ashby. 2, Robert Gosser.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that I'm looking to. Robert Gosser pitched today. He made his season debut today. So we're looking at 5 days from Wednesday. I'm looking to see if Robert Gosser can pitch on Monday. That's what I'm looking at. And when Robert Gosser makes his debut, I hope it's Monday because I'm going to be there. So if Robert Gosser makes his debut and I am there, I will be super excited because I'm really excited for Robert Gosser. Other than that, I am looking at Aaron Ashby. Tobias Myers made a start yesterday, and he looked pretty solid. Like I said, he gave up that one pitch home run to Andrew McCutchen, who is a legend.
Yeah.
And other than that, he was really good. Michael said there's another AAA guy pitching really great too. Is it possibly Evan McKendry? That might be the other guy that I think you're maybe thinking of.
Okay.
I looked at him actually in the preseason or in spring training as a potential guy to add to the rotation. But other than that, I mean, if you need somebody else to make a spot start, the next guy that I'm looking at after today is going to be Bryce Wilson. The next guy that I'm looking at it's Aaron Ashby. And I would rather have Aaron Ashby in the big leagues than signing Trevor Bauer.
I agree with that.
Okay. Game 2 from the Cardinals. What's it up to from that one?
Man, there's a lot to take away from this one. That's all I got to tell you right there. That's interesting. So I'm just going to say the pitching stats. I'm going to let you say – I'm going to say my stuff, and then I'm going to let you go, and we're going to get into the context of Dale Hall, okay? So that's how we're going to handle that.
Yeah.
But Dale Hall, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 walks, and 3 Ks. Before we get into anything, yes, he has to get the walks down. Yep. Yes, he's a grown-up, and he understands that.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay. Bryce Wilson came in, gave an inning and a third, zeros across the board. Hobie Milner spelled him, inning and a third, 1 K. Uribe, inning and 2/3, had 2 walks and 2 Ks, no earned runs, no hits. Vieira, 1 1/3, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 1 K. None of that mattered because everybody decided to hit on one day. Everybody hit. Everybody scored. It was amazing. Adames RBI. Hoskins 3 RBIs. Contreras had an RBI. Terang had 2, and Chourio had 2. So here's a stat for this. I got a couple about the hits, okay?
Nice.
The 18 hits were the most as a team in 3 years. Every starter had a hit, and 8 of the starters had multiple hits for the first time since April 22nd, 2010. The
Nice.
bottom three in the order were 6 for 12 with 4 RBIs.
And they scored 7 runs. And they had 4 extra base hits.
That's ridiculous. This was the most hits in the game for the Brewers since August 12th of 2021 versus the Cubs when they had 22. Okay? And here's one about Jackson Chourio. So Jackson Chourio had a home run in this game. He's the 4th youngest player since 1990 with 4 home runs in his first 17 games. Okay? Now, the names on this list are ridiculous. And if you've ever watched our show, you know I suck at names, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Can I guess if Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, or Ronald Acuna Jr. are on this list?
None of them are on this list.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Michael said he was thinking it was a Rodriguez as McKendry's on the 7-day injured list.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to look into that, honestly.
Carlos Rodriguez. He's one of the Rodriguezes. We have 2 Carlos Rodriguezes.
Yeah,
one pitcher and one that's an outfielder.
No, I'm gonna have to look into who he's trying to talk about here. Who's pitching good? So Chourio is 20 years and 20 days old. Okay, so he's the 4th youngest. So the youngest person to do it was Andrew Jones in 1996 for the Braves. He was 19 years, 138 days. The next youngest after that was a guy who played in 1964 named Tony Cagliaro. Okay, he was 19 and 120 days old. And then after that, it's Lou Klimchak in 1958, 1959, 19 years old, 345 days. So you're going back to 1958 with this stuff, man. So Jackson Chourio already making MLB history. So everybody that, maybe wavering off the train here, don't go anywhere. This kid's going to be making some history.
Interesting. Okay, so you brought up the 7, 8, 9 hitters. You brought up the 8 and 9 starters. My thing is the Cardinals had the momentum after robbing William Contreras of what was probably a 3-run double. And then they scored 3 in the bottom of the next inning to take a 4-2 lead. The Brewers scored 3 in the top of the 4th inning and eventually scored 10 unanswered runs.
Dude, that's so funny.
The second inning, the Brewers did have an unsuccessful bunt by Bryce Durang. This is where I talked about small ball last week, and I talked about liking the way that the Brewers are playing small ball. Mm-hmm. If you are bunting Bryce Durang, you are bunting for a hit, not bunting to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do that. And there is credit to be given to the Cardinal center fielder for robbing that hit. That was a great defensive play. Tip the cap. Hats off. Great work. In the 6th inning, William Contreras hit a single to right center field. My question to every single team that the Brewers have faced so far this year, why, and please don't stop, are you still shifting against William Contreras, playing him to pull?
It's a good question.
By all means, please continue doing it, and he will continue just slapping hits to right center field. I'm all for it. I enjoy William Contreras just raking against everybody because they continue to position themselves poorly defensively on a guy who's good at going to the opposite field. But he had a single to the right center field for his 20th RBI. So good for him. Now, here in the 7th inning, the Brewers manufactured another run. Jackson Chourio had a 2-out walk, stole second base, and then Sal Frelick hit a ground ball. Now, this could have just been a routine ground out, except Sal Frelick is one of the fastest players in Major League Baseball this year. He's in the 99th percentile for sprint speed. So he's in the top 1% of speed in Major League Baseball. Yeah. Forced the defender to rush and make a bad throw, and Jackson Chourio was able to score. That's Sal Frelick's speed is a factor in this play. It wasn't just the defender made a bad throw. It's the defender had to hurry because Sal Frelick moves with his speed. So it's absolutely a factor. Gosser's debut is today. He said he just got Rodriguez pulled up. He's not struggling, not as bad as Ashby. Ashby has a 9.28 ERA, Rodriguez 8.34. And that's ERA is not a huge thing for me. Obviously, if it's super high like that, it's concerning. But if it's over a large sample size, that's when I'd be concerned. So if you have a guy who gives up 2 runs in 1 inning, like his ERA is going to be 18.
Right.
So like it's super early, so I'm not going to be super like, putting a lot of stock in ERA. Like I'd probably look something more like WHIP, like walks and hits per inning pitched. Sheesh, couldn't get that out. Or like opponent batting average, things like that.
That's why I always do WHIP in when I do my power play, because it's like that one makes sense because it's like walks and hits. So how much are they giving up to the opponent?
Right. Yeah. ERA is in early season numbers, especially like similarly like batting average. It's such a volatile number.
Yeah.
Like, it can change so quickly. Now, lastly, with game 2, DL Hall. I think he's so close. I think he's so close to being a really good pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
He got ahead of a lot of hitters, just was unable to put him away. I think he just needs to kind of develop a put away pitch. And if he can, I think he could be dominant. And it's going to be either his curveball or his slider.
Yeah, I was thinking curveball, honestly. And that was my thought too, is I was like, he just needs one that finishes the job. Like just focus on one pitch, because obviously he has the stuff. I mean, we talked about this the other day, man. He has a great base. Just give me one pitch, just like Devin Williams has his changeup, right?
Exactly.
Give me one pitch, and that's the put away pitch. Doesn't matter if the hitters know it. If you trust your stuff and you locate it correctly, you're gonna get them out.
And the thing is as DL Hall obviously gets more experience, he'll have his control be better. And the thing is that right now he hasn't shown that he can reliably throw those off-speed pitches for strikes. And when he can do that, that's when he's going to be able to start moving it a little bit farther away from the strike zone and getting guys to swing and miss at it. If he can reliably locate either that curveball and or slider for strikes. Because that's, like I said, I believe that if he can do that, if he can have one of those become a reliable put-away pitch, I believe DL Hall can be dominant. Not just good, dominant.
Yeah.
Because his fastball, 94 towards the top of the zone, if you're throwing like 80 to 82 sliders or curveballs and sliders at like 84, 86, like that 94 looks like 98.
Yeah.
And you're talking about movement from a left-handed pitcher.
Right, exactly.
So I'm not like, oh my God, we traded Corbin Burns and this guy sucks. Like, nope, the stuff is there. He's got the tools to be dominant. He just needs experience, control, and more work. That's what he needs.
Yep.
I don't care if he has a bad season this year, but I want to see him pitch as many innings as he can.
Yeah, he needs the innings.
Without getting him hurt. Like, I don't want to see him further injured. But when he's back healthy, I want to see him pitching as much as possible in the major leagues.
Right.
Michael said Rodriguez's whip is 172, his first year at AAA. Last 2 years, season whip 112 and 106. Those are both very good numbers. 172 is a little high. Once you start getting over like 1.3, 1.4, that's when it gets high. So, yeah, he's not quite ready for the big leagues, similarly to like Jacob Mizorowski. Those guys are not quite ready yet. Carlos Rodriguez has spent all of last year, I think, with AA Biloxi. Okay, back to DL Hall. Looking at it, I actually broke down one of his pitching sequences against Wilson Contreras that it should have been a strikeout, in my opinion. If strike 2 had been called correctly, Wilson Contreras would have struck out against DL Hall. And even still, DL Hall still had 2 strikeouts in the first inning, did give up a run, but it should have been 3 strikeouts in order, and then a walk and a double after that gave the Cardinals a 2-1 deficit instead of 2-0, which it should have been. Looking at even the umpire scorecard, at least 2 of the 2-strike pitches that he threw should have been strikeouts. And if those had been, and I counted 3 of them, that would have been -2 runs from the Cardinals against DL Hall. And then you'd be looking at him giving up 2 runs. Michael said DL Hall has been exactly what I expected, maybe better. Honestly, I love his future. Agree with your analysis. Well, thank you. What do you want to say on DL Hall? I mean, I know we're in the same boat on this, but I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, he just you guys know me as a guy that likes to make comparisons, right? And, last year with the Packers, we were in a situation where we has had a bunch of young guys at a bunch of really important positions. And the number one name at the top of everybody's list was Jordan Love, right? And what was the one thing that we were going into the season saying, right? He needs game time experience.
Yeah. Find out if he's the guy.
Yeah, and there's only one way to do that. You can't find that out in practice. You can't find that out in the film room.
No substitute for game reps.
You got to throw him in there, and we got to see what we got. And that is exactly the mindset that I have with DL Hall.
Totally fair.
You got to get him out there. You got to get him facing these professional hitters. And I've said this before. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, okay? Because then when you're actually comfortable, that becomes a little bit easier too.
Then you can do something else that makes you uncomfortable. That's how you grow.
That's how you grow. So getting him in these positions where he's getting walks and having a bunch of people on base, and he's trying to find his command, and he's on the road against the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are one of the blue bloods of the MLB. Let's just call it what it is, right? I mean, they might be a fringe, but I think they're a blue blood. And
they have dogs. Their young guys are a little iffy, but they have some dogs.
So you get him against a good lineup on the road, and you got to figure out what he's got, right? Same thing when he pitched in Baltimore. Obviously, that's his former team. But you get him on the road against a bunch of people that know how to hit. That's good stuff for him. Just like Jordan Love early in the season. Throw him in against the Atlanta Falcons on the road. First true road game for him. I mean, obviously, he played against the Chiefs. But we've talked about this analysis before. That game plan against the Chiefs was fucking garbage. So we're just going to throw that one out. Get him in an uncomfortable situation against the Saints where he has to come back. He played like dog shit the entire game. The whole Packers team did, really, besides the defense for a couple possessions. I mean, get him in position, see what he can do. That's how I feel about DL Hall. Put him in position. I will say that the offense is kind of bailing him out a little bit, and he knows that. He acknowledged that after the game. He didn't say they bailed me out, but he said, I'm lucky to have an offense that's backing me up like this. And that's a good thing for him. So I do agree that he needs to put away pitch. I do agree that it needs to be one of his breaking balls. I think it's going to be the curveball. So who was it? Was it Vinny? When we interviewed Vinny, what did Vinny say? Vinny said that he liked the curveball or the slider. I don't remember.
I think Vinny liked everything about him.
Yeah. But
I think it was curveball.
I think it was curveball. So he said he had like one of the best curveballs in the draft or whatever. So, he's just got to develop one of those, and he's got to figure out the command. But you're only going to do that by playing in games. It is what it is.
So I just want to look and see like what his break is on his curveball and stuff. So his curveball, it might be the slider. So looking at his vertical movement on his pitches, they have on Baseball Savant, it has like zones. So it's like the darker the blue is the colder, or like the worse that it is. And like the darker the red means like the hotter it is, the better. So looking at his vertical movement, he gets 56 inches of drop on his curveball, which is a shit ton. That's 2.1 inches above the average. That's pretty solid. That's 4% above average is what Baseball Savant says. It says it's also 11% above average on horizontal movement, which is pretty good. His slider is actually higher. It gets 40.5 inches of vertical drop, and that's 2.7 inches above the average. That's 7% above the average. It's 20% above average on horizontal movement. So the east-west, 20% above average on that. So I think that's pretty interesting, actually. So that's that. Now we can get into Game 3, and what stood out to you from Game 3?
So, talked about Colin Ray already. He was one of my power pair players, and we gave Sonny Gray his flowers. We were the reason that Sonny Gray gave up his first run of the year. Yep. That's amazing. In a game that we only scored 2 runs, one of them unearned for Sonny Gray, which I learned last night because Tyler is smarter than me. But I just want to give some credit to Owen Miller as well, man. His first hit of the year was a big boy hit. He got 2 RBIs on it. Blake and Bryce had back-to-back singles, and Owen Miller just hit him in. And that's something that is you cannot. We've talked about baseball. I'm gonna take a step back. We've talked about how tough it is to hit a baseball. You go through the process of everything that Owen Miller has gone through over the last year plus, and for him to be called up, called down. He had a crazy May last year. Then he kind of dipped off towards the end of the year last year, and he doesn't really make the initial roster, but he kind of does. He goes down to AAA, gets called back up, and he gets put in this spot, and he comes through. That is amazing, and that is why people love baseball and they romanticize about baseball because of situations like this, and that's just amazing. They were 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. You guessed it. It was Owen Miller. He came through in the clutch. Hudson in his hometown, absolute stud. I'm gonna let you have that. Just want to point out couple things real quick. This is the first sweep of the Cardinals in St. Louis since September 24th through 26th, 2018. The Brewers after this game, after they won, were 10-2 on the road and 9-2 in day games, both first in Major League Baseball.
I like that. Colin Ray had a pretty eventful first 2 innings, but settled in pretty nicely after that. Got through 5 innings after having 40-plus pitches in his first 2 innings. So good on Colin Ray, like I said, to be the model of consistency after having 2 really high traffic innings to go 1-2-3 in the third, 1-2-3 in the fourth, and a pretty uneventful 5th inning. Blake Perkins just keeps doing really good things, allowing the Brewers to be patient with Yelly. I got the Wisco Ball Yelly hoodie on today. Christian Yelich was doing running drills today, so he is close to being back. But again, with the play of Blake Perkins, it gives them the option to be overly cautious with him. That said, he robbed a home run, and I looked it up. The ball that was hit was 106.4 miles an hour off the bat. It went 406 feet. Would have been a home run in 15 of 30 ballparks. So that would have been a home run in half the ballparks in Major League Baseball, and Blake Perkins turned it into not home run.
I like that.
He also added a hit and a walk, so good on him. Brian Hudson continues to be locked down. My man, Brian Hudson. I'm so glad that I'm going to be able to keep the receipt of the first show of the Brewers season for Wisco Fanatics to be like, I like this Brian Hudson guy. So I love that. He came in after a leadoff walk in the 6th inning, went strikeout, fly out, strikeout, then a 1-2-3 7th, and got a strikeout to start the 8th inning. So he faced 7 batters, retired them all in order, and struck out 4 of them. Tim, thank you. We're almost done. We got 2 Pirates games to talk about, and then we'll get to today's Pirates game as well. And then lastly, Elvis Peguero, he threw all 5 of the fastest pitches that were thrown in this game. I just noticed that while I was looking up the game. The top velocities of this game were all thrown by Elvis Peguero.
I like that.
Yeah, and the Brewers wrapped up the sweep, so love that. All right, Brewers-Pirates game 1. This is Monday. What stood out to you from Monday's game?
Honestly, don't have much. Obviously, the pitching was pretty good to only give up 4 runs. Only 1 earned from Joe Ross. Hoskins had a home run, 2 RBIs. We were 0 for 3 runners in scoring position. And for me, the biggest takeaway is they couldn't get the big hit. That's what it comes down to, right? We had bases loaded in the 6th and the 8th inning. Couldn't get a hit to scratch a couple of runs across the board. That's baseball, honestly.
Yep. So with this game, I want to talk about Thiago Vieira. And I actually texted Vinny Rattino about this because he brought it up in the preseason. We were doing our Brewers primer that Thiago Vieira is a guy who was going to be, like a fringe guy, but who could be, impactful in the bullpen. And, the Brewers are behind at this point, but there is something to be said for keeping teams from adding insurance runs in close games. So there's no glory in this for Thiago Vieira to keeping this a 4-1 game, but there is for us. We're going to give him that love. To keep this game close for a potential comeback, just because the Brewers didn't come back doesn't mean that Thiago Vieira didn't pitch well or didn't give the Brewers a chance to come back. That's the important thing. Because there's going to be games, when we talk about 162 games, there are going to be games where he does give them the opportunity to come back, and they do. It's going to happen. There's 162 games. Every outcome you can think of that can happen is going to happen. Somebody's going to be down by 6 in the bottom of the 9th this year and score 7 runs to win. It's going to happen. There's so many games. Every outcome that can happen is going to happen. So Thiago Vieira keeping the Pirates from adding insurance is going to help the Brewers get a comeback win at some point this year. Yeah, Brett, we'll talk about that. That's a different thing. We'll probably talk about it next week when Bobby Portis is given the Pacers 30-10. But the Pirates broke a 6-game losing streak. You know, they were looking to get out of their slump. Jared Jones for the Pirates was great. And the Pirates, they have a handful of really good young players. That's why they jumped out to a really big, solid start to the season. The same thing with last year. They have good young players. They just need more of them. They have, they don't have 4 guys that can just carry their whole team.
Yeah.
Joe Ross said he thought he was pulled early. I agree with Pat Murphy for pulling him when he did. Pat Murphy said, I think he felt like protecting a player from himself a little bit. Even Ross himself said he noticed his velocity was down, and Pat Murphy noted that his sinker movement was down also. So I agree with Pat Murphy pulling Joe Ross when he did.
I'm with it.
And obviously those runs that came in were unearned. And Jeff Levering even pointed out during the broadcast, the Pirates were having trouble scoring runs. 3 of the 4 runs they scored were unearned. And, we are positive and optimistic. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, this guy needs to be gone because he's trash. But I'm looking at it strictly as things, when changes need to be made, they need to be made for the betterment of the team. And I'm not saying that Jake Bauers is trash, because he actually had a really good 2-out, 2-strike approach that he hit a double on an outside pitch. That was a really good at bat. Jake Bauers he's got his moments. But right now, his leash is very short. Tyler Black is hitting everything in AAA.
He's raking right now.
Tyler Black is on a heater in AAA right now.
Yeah, he is. He's putting the pressure.
And Jake Bauers is not playing well. Jake Bauers is averaging 1 home run every 7 games last season. The Brewers need that power from him. So I need to see what they brought Jake Bauers from him. Or frankly, I believe that Tyler Black deserves that opportunity, which I believed in spring training. But the way that he's playing right now, I'm ready for Tyler Black.
Yeah.
So without that error, the Pirates would have had second and third with 2 outs, and Michael Taylor, who is batting 1 for 7, that's a 143 batting average with runners in scoring position and 2 outs this year. So it's reasonable to assume that he would have ground out, or that he would have gotten out, and the game would have still been tied 1-1. So I don't really want to hear Joe Ross slander either, because he's pitching pretty well overall. He's had 1 bad game so far this year. And we talked about that during the Padres series, that it was a lot of soft contact and just kind of unlucky. So He's had 1 bad game that I would say is more unlucky than bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to double down on the Michael Taylor thing, the Brewers intentionally loaded the bases for him with 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th, and he struck out. So Brewers, without the error, still would have had a chance to win this game. And even still, with Thiago Vieira, they still had a chance to win this game.
Very true.
Anyways, going into last night, I really did not have many takeaways from this game. Tobias Myers made his debut, gave up a first pitch home run, and then his first career strikeout was Key Brian Hayes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Back-to-back days for leadoff homers for the Pirates, so let's try not to do that today. That'd be a good thing.
Yeah. When you see Andrew McCutchen, maybe just hit him.
Yeah.
Obviously joking. We loved Andrew McCutchen when he was here. He was awesome. A great clubhouse guy. Just don't pitch him an inside fastball to start the game.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Sanchez unloaded on a baseball last night, so that was fun to watch.
True.
Just want to give a shout out to Myers.
Hold on. We can't speed past that. You didn't just unload on a ball. That was a fucking nuke.
Oh, it was. I was like, what was that?
I forgot until I looked at my notes again, and I'm like, holy shit. That was 113 miles an hour off the bat.
Yeah, it was like 432 feet.
That's
or
a
something.
nuke. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
he touched that.
That's a nuke, bro.
Oh, he knew it
Yeah.
was gone.
Yeah.
That sucker called way too much plate, and he said, "Bye."
Should have DFA'd him 2 weeks ago, right?
Just give a shout out to Myers. Really, one of my only takeaways. He spent 8 years in the minors. The Brewers are his sixth team. So obviously you have the Brewers. He was picked by Baltimore in the 2019 amateur draft. He spent time with Tampa Bay, Cleveland, San Francisco, and the Chicago White Sox. So good for him, showing adversity, showing willpower, and honestly, golf clap, man. That's fucking awesome, man. He chased his dream and he went and got it. So
underrated performer.
Love that.
Yeah. Two things that I want to mention with this game, and they're both about Jackson Chourio. One good, one opportunistic, I guess I would say. Is one, the fact that Jackson Chourio was playing right field and made a diving catch in center field is bonkers.
Oh, for real.
I'm going to have that. I'm going to try to do play breakdowns. I'm going to try to do them by series. It's a little bit easier with the Packers only having one game a week to break Packers games down. Brewers, this is our first year trying to do some play breakdowns, so I'm going to try to do them with baseball and see what I can come up with. So I'm going to try to do them by series. That's how I'm going to try to keep up with it. But Jackson Chourio's diving catch in center field as a right fielder, that's nuts.
Yeah, it is.
And then my other thing with Jackson Chourio is an opportunity. Now, this is a potential coaching thing for Jackson Chourio. Is I'd like to see Jackson Chourio when he has 2 strikes on him. I want to see him doing what Bryce Terang is doing this year. And that's shortening up his swing. So we know Chourio's got power. We know he can drive the ball. I would like to see this next stage in Jackson Chourio's game to be for him to foul pitches off, to live for another pitch, to see another pitch, to have an opportunity to catch a mistake, to use the opposite field. So I'm not going to say that Jackson Chourio is, he's not worth the deal that he got, or he needs to be sent to AAA, or, he's not worth being on the major league roster. I'm not going to say anything like that because we know that Jackson Chourio is very, very talented. Jake already brought up that he's doing things that only 4 people since 1958 have done, and Chourio's one of them. So he deserves to be here. He should be here, and he's going to continue getting better. We just have to be a little patient with him. But one of the things that I'm looking for from his development is just his 2-strike approach to change up a little bit.
I like that.
So the Brewers have, I believe, 7 games between now and next Wednesday. Yes. No, it's 8. 8 games between now and next Wednesday because next Wednesday is a day game. So 2 more against Pittsburgh, 3 against the Yankees, and then 3 versus the Rays. Honestly, if the Brewers go 4-4 in this stretch, I'll be okay with it.
Home again. That's a lot of home games. It's a lot of home games.
Yankees are really tough right now.
Yeah, I know they are.
I'll honestly, if the Brewers can take 1 from the Yankees, I'll understand it. So if we can split the last 2 with Pittsburgh on the road and take 2 or 3 from the Rays at home and 1 from the Yankees, I'd be okay with 4-4. I'm going to say 5-3 because I'd like to win these next 2 against Pittsburgh, 1 from the Yankees and 2 from the Rays. So I'm going to say 5-3. But if they went 4-4, I'd be okay with it.
I'm feeling 5-3 as well. I almost said 6-2 because I wanted to feel a little overconfident, but I'm going to say 5-3. Though the Yankees are hitting on all cylinders right now.
And they're getting good pitching, good hitting. They're doing really well. Alrighty. Thanks for sticking with us through thick and thin. It gets a little thick with losing in the playoffs sometimes, but Jake and I are Wisco fanatics, and we are not going to change. We're not going to stop being optimistic no matter what happens. And you can always guarantee that from us because it's not what we do. That's who we are. So with that, we will see you tomorrow night. We're going to be live with John from Lombardi Time Brews for the draft. We're going to be live with him tomorrow night and Friday night for rounds 1 through 3. If you want to get super hardcore, I believe he's also going to be live all day Saturday. But we're going to be live through rounds 1 through 3. So join us again tomorrow night, and we will see you then.